Hello. A commentator by the name of Morgiao has taken exception to, I mean, he's being polite about it, but he disagrees with my analysis of the initial Jeff Gray video where he was trespassed from a city hall in Florida. I don't know what to do here because you're bigger than I am and you win. So he was trespassed for protesting outside. He went inside to use the facilities for their lawfully dedicated purposes. He went in there to do a public records request and to check the community bulletin board. The community bulletin board is in there for people to go check. It was legitimate business. A lot of people don't understand legitimate business. It means, are you doing the business that that particular public building was dedicated for? If you go into the post office, are you conducting business with the post office? Are you checking the wanted ads or the wanted posters in the post office? Things like that. Or are you trying to subvert the purpose to your own end? I'm filming is not, generally speaking, a legitimate purpose, at least as far as Adderley and the like are concerned. So anyway, Morgiao's argument is essentially, and I'm going to paraphrase it, you can find it on the video if you look for it, that Jeff Gray was a potential security risk. People didn't know what his intentions were or something. That the government has the right to protect the people from that kind of language and to kick out people who are disrupting the business by protesting out in front of it. And no, there's a lot to unpack. But first of all, taking exception to the word fuck on his sign is been beat to death. Cohen v. California came out. You can't just restrict it. You'd have to go through strict scrutiny to try to eliminate words, unless they're fighting words. And the government is just not going to pass that 99.999 times out of 100. I mean, it's just not. There is no compelling government reason to restrict you from saying fuck. It's never going to be the least restrictive means of achieving whatever that compelling reason is to prevent you from saying fuck. And it's probably not going to be There are exceptions, I guess, where it could come in, like if the government's trying to protect kids at a playground or something like that, maybe the government can get away with it, maybe. But, you know, that'd be a different analysis for a different day. So, any restriction you're trying to make to protect people from seeing the word fuck, you're just really not gonna win on that. FCC can do it. You can do it on like advertisements. You can prevent people from swearing on billboards and things like that. But preventing protesters from saying the word fuck is just not going to happen. So that's issue number one. Issue number two is there is no ordinance or anything like that preventing Jeff Gray from protesting out in front of City Hall. So he hadn't violated any law. And if they have a policy in that building about protesting out in front of the building, well, it's not written anywhere. And I would suggest it's void for vagueness. Because number one, people don't know about it. Everybody's going to assume that you can protest in front of City Hall. Even if that rule is otherwise valid, it would be void for vagueness. And it's being enforced capriciously. I'm sure that they said it was because he was offending people. So he can't always be certain when he's offending people. But if he wasn't offending people, he could have been able to stand there with the sign that says, "I love City Hall," and that would have been fine. So that doesn't work. them not knowing what his intentions are, that's meaningless. You can't punish people for not knowing what their intentions are. That's like thought crime stuff. They actually have to do something in order for you to start to take action. And even then, the government has to wait until a crime has been committed in order to arrest. I mean, they can detain on suspicion crime is afoot, but they got to wait for that crime to be committed to arrest, or to otherwise punish you for it. And that's really what that whole thing was about, is they punished Jeff by trespassing him when he had done nothing wrong on the property. Now, can a government trespass people willy-nilly? No, they can't. They do have to have a reason to do it. Like a normal store probably could. I don't like the look of your face. Now, unless it's like some protected class, like, you know, I don't like you because you're black. Well, probably can't do that. I mean, depending on the kind of business, et cetera, et cetera. But generally speaking, a business can trespass you just because they don't like the fact that you are protesting out in front of their houses or their store. But the government's different. If you remember in Adderley, it's like we keep going over the same cases, but if you remember in Adderley, the government has the power to preserve its property for its lawfully dedicated purposes. But that doesn't mean that the government can trespass you willy-nilly. What the court was saying there was, if someone comes onto the property and is using it for a purpose other than what the state dedicated it for, then the state can kick them out because they're not using the property for the lawfully dedicated purpose. But in this case, Jeff wasn't protesting on the property. He was protesting off the property. So you're gonna have a real issue with Adderley. Adderley allows you to protest or to trespass people who have done something on the property. It doesn't allow you to trespass people who you don't like their political views on. And just think about how far that could go. You know, if at a barbecue, at a backyard barbecue in your own backyard, you tell your neighbor who's there for the barbecue that you really hate City Hall, and your neighbor has a friend who works at City Hall, so your neighbor tells them, and that friend tells the city manager, and next thing you know, you're trespassed from City Hall because you offended the town manager, the city manager, or the friend who worked at the City Hall. That doesn't make any sense. And finally, there's one last thing. There is one huge difference between a place like Walmart and City Hall. If you need a building permit, you're probably going to have to go to City Hall. If you need some cheap imported plastic gewgaw or widget, and you've been trespassed from Walmart, you just go to Target down the street. You can order it on Amazon, whatever. You have lots of options. You don't have options with the government. You're stuck with the government you got. So that is why the government, that's one of the many reasons why the government can't just trespass you. And they need due process. It's a due process concern if they trespass you and you haven't done anything wrong, is the long and the short way of saying it. Anyway, I've rambled long enough. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.